Hello and welcome to Nolan Financial Radio. My name is Chris McKinney from Nolan Financial Partners. If you'd like to hear more information about what we're going to talk about on the show today, give us a call at 719-210-4242 or visit us online at our website, nolanfinancialpartners.com. And while at our website, click on the radio page, check out our past shows, and subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. When building a financial strategy that seeks to help you turn your retirement dreams into a reality, there's always a risk that you'll get so caught up in big, heavily marketed things like income tools, long-term care, life insurance, and where you live, that you miss some of the smaller but less important details, right? So today we're going to talk about the details. After all, it's so many part of our lives, it can be these smaller things that are neglected, and sometimes they can have big, profound impacts on our finances in the future. So checking out how much you contribute to your 401k, changing beneficiaries on your insurance policies, so that all those things flow easily to your heirs. There are so many little things like that. When combined, can add up to something significant. So during our show today, we're going to examine some of the lesser highlighted, but still essential retirement details. But before getting to that topic, let me introduce you to my co-host, Tony Shore, who never misses the details, whether they're big or small.
Well, you know what they say, Chris, the devil is in the details, right?
That's right.
And that's why you got to tackle that, take care of that. And that'll allow you to move on properly. So I'm glad we're talking about details when it comes to financial and retirement planning today. I know it's really important. You know what? I've had a good week. It's been kind of a crazy week. I know that there are some family things going on for you and
Yep.
for me somewhat.
Sure.
We talked a little bit about that. You had some sad news this week, but we take the good with the bad, don't we?
Yes, we do. The things I like to think about when bad times hit is all the good moments that happened before that, and because of the things of that you're around, the people you're around, right?
Yeah.
That's what I like to do.
Yeah. And I know you and Tara are always there for each other. And the day we're recording this is Valentine's Day. I know you got big plans for that. But again, dealing with a loss is hard. But I know that you've got great family around you and supporting you. And you won't have too much time to think about the bad things when you're with Tara because she keeps you going, doesn't she?
No. The schedule fills up fast.
It does.
Especially if I'm not watching. So probably she'll schedule 2 more things while we're doing this radio show.
That's true. She will. Well, I know you guys have been busy helping people in our community.
Yes.
You love to help people. Look out for their best interests when it comes to finances, especially with retirement planning. I think it's a fantastic topic. I know there have been times when I've built a plan or strategy around what I thought were the biggest, most important pieces, and you see these top 10 lists only to have the whole thing fall apart because you overlooked a few small details. So today, I think it's good to look at the details.
It is good to look at the details. And the first detail we're going to talk about today is Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC coverage. On that, you should make sure you have that on all your accounts. So when we go into retirement, we have money flowing from our retirement systems into usually a bank, right? And so they go into savings, go into checking. So you want to make sure that those accounts aren't getting bigger than those FDIC limits. Banks don't go out of business a lot, but sometimes they do. They have done that, and FDIC steps in and makes that money whole up to limits. So the limit on an individual account is $250,000. A limit on a joint account is $500,000. So if you have a joint account, an individual account or a joint account, and they are over those limits, maybe you should think about breaking up that money so that they're covered by another bank's insurance, right?
Right.
Even so, that probably both banks won't go out of business at the same time. The other problem with if a bank goes out of business, your money is held up. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point too.
Uh,
And
yeah.
people don't realize that they think I've got my money in the bank. That's where it's the safest. The government guarantees it, but there is a limit to that. I mean, I wish I had $250,000 in my bank account right now. But there are people out there, Chris. I have to tell the story because I just heard it last week.
Okay.
And this is a true story. I was talking to another financial advisor who had a woman come to him. She was somewhat elderly, a senior, retired. She had $7 million in her checking account.
Wow.
In her checking account.
Wow.
So first of all, there's a lot of
And
problems.
probably
with
living frugally because that's just how
Yeah.
she rolls.
Right. And I mean, even in a checking account, she's going to make, I mean, you're only going to make a tiny percent of that in interest, but it's such a large amount, the interest is going to be good. Maybe she could live off of it. But even if she could, there's so many mistakes to that. If the bank would happen to go under, because a lot of people are loyal to the small hometown bank they've been a part of, especially those of us who are a little older. I know my wife and I bank at a smaller bank. So the problem is only 250,000 of that is protected.
That's
if
right.
something should happen to the bank. And of course, a number of people could live off just the interest of that money if she put it in a growth account. I mean, there are entire families. She could probably, half the town could live off just the interest if she'd put it in
Exactly.
in a growth account. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know what I mean. So
there's more safety for that amount of money being in the market than being in a single bank.
I know it sounds crazy, but
isn't that odd?
But at least if past performance, we can't say it's indicative of future results. But if the market does what it's done the last 100 years, the money would be a lot better off in the market.
Well,
but again, you don't want to put all those eggs in one basket anyway.
No,
That's part of the problem is she has everything in one place.
Yes.
You want to make sure you have to diversify. But I'm glad we're talking about banks because that's not something we normally talk about on the show. We talk a lot about other types of investments like stocks, bonds, things like that, or annuities. But people do put money in CDs. Sometimes we talk about those, but which are through banks. But just to have that in a checking or savings account, you want an emergency fund and you want some money in there, but
not that much.
Nothing over 250,000, I would say.
Not unless you're getting ready to like buy a home or do something big. So it's only temporary, right?
Right. If you're going to go out and buy, if you have a lot of money and you're going to buy a $800,000 home and you want to put $800,000 in your checking account just so you can just stroke a check, that's one thing. But just having that in there it would scare me even having that more than 250 in a bank account for
and then there's more safety for money, and banks are only so safe.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it happen, but at least they're government insured up to 250. So
that's right.
That's good. But again, it's all about percentages. If your total amount you have in retirement funds is 250,000, you don't want $250,000 in a bank account, right? You want that spread out.
Yes. Yeah. And so there's good ways to do that. And so we can help with that type of thing. So the next thing I want to talk about was beneficiaries. So this is the other important part about, so like that, the lady with the $7 million in the bank, she probably doesn't have a named beneficiary on those accounts at a bank because
people don't put beneficiaries on checking accounts typically.
I don't know that you couldn't or make them joint with
you'd have
the person you want to go to.
Yeah. We did it. My wife and I did it, but you really need to, I mean, the best way to do it is to get a trust. and then
Right.
go to your bank and fill out a beneficiary form. And you can do that. You can
Yeah.
fill out a beneficiary form for an account at a bank. We did it. My wife and I, in fact, just
You-
recently did that.
Yeah.
But we listed the beneficiary as the trust we had set up.
Right.
So,
But the point is the bank is not going to ask you to do that.
oh no! In fact, you got to find a knowledgeable person at the
Yes.
bank. You can't. I mean, no offense against the young, but if there's a 19-year-old or
Yeah.
18-year-old clerk, they might not even know about it. In fact, the first person we talked to at our bank had no idea
So,
what to do. So they went and got a manager
yeah,
and
get a manager.
they said, oh yes, yeah. And so
There you
it's
go.
not something most people don't do it. And
No.
everyone should, especially if you have any type of significant money. I mean,
Right.
yeah, in the bank. Otherwise, nobody's going to be able to get access to it. That's
Nobody
the
will get
problem.
to have access to it, and it may go through probate.
Yeah, it'll probably go through probate. You'll have to get, if the person passes, you have to have a death certificate. You have to fill out tons of forms. When you can, just one simple form will take care of it.
It's all done.
Yeah.
So the other challenge is that any money that goes through probate is going to have all these stipulations. There's going to be a judicial review. There's going to be an attorneys involved, and they're all going to get paid from the estate. So typical costs range from 3 to 7% of the value of the estate. So we really want to have things go to your beneficiaries, not through probate. And so as financial service professional, I make sure that every account that I have with my clients has a beneficiary named.
Yeah.
There is no exception. There's nobody that comes to my office and does not get a beneficiary name on whatever account they have with me.
At least one, and usually a contingent beneficiary too, because
we have my form has
life happens.
3 or 4 primaries and 3 or 4, contingency beneficiaries, wherever you want it to go.
Yeah.
Because we don't want it to go through probate. We don't want money to get clogged up. This is their money. Now, if it's a spouse situation, there's no probate. Everything just kind of flows, no problem, because of the rules and joint with right of survivorship rules here in Colorado. But some states may not be the same.
Yeah, every state is different when it comes to
different
how they handle estates and money and transferring. So it's better to get it. It's better to get it all taken care of ahead of time, so you can avoid probate. That's for sure. That's court fees, attorney costs, and people think, oh man, I don't want to pay to get a trust or pay an attorney to do all this. I'll tell you what, paying for a trust is a lot cheaper to set up than the costs you're going to incur if you don't. And your loved ones. And, some people are like, I don't care what happens when I'm gone. Okay, well, that's one attitude, but most people do, and they don't want to leave their family in a bad situation. So.
They think that while they're making money, but then once they're not making money and they got to figure out where all that money's going to go, they start to care.
Yeah. Yeah, even those people who might not think they care about it, they usually end up caring about it.
They do.
But I think that's just a small percentage. The majority of people don't want to leave their family or loved ones in a bad situation, and they want to make sure that if they have money or whatever they have, whether how little or how much it is, they know where it's going. And you need to update those beneficiaries too on a regular basis.
Right, Tony.
Right?
I had a client came to me, and we were doing some new forms for her, and I put an old beneficiary as her primary because that's what she's been using it. And so I just went ahead and put it in there.
Sure.
And she said, "Oh no, he's not around anymore."
Oh,
so that you need to update your if your beneficiary is not around anymore, you need to update that.
And maybe you have a one of your children. Maybe you have 5 kids. You put you have one of them as a beneficiary, but they've fallen into trouble, or they might have a drug problem or something like that,
or all that money at one time.
Or you don't want to, people get married and then you might not want to leave them as much or specify. And divorces, grandchildren, things happen, births, deaths, marriages, all those things can change how you want your beneficiary set up or who is your beneficiary. Right. So you got to look at that.
Right.
on a regular basis. That's a good point. So what's next?
So the next thing is looking at your 401k allocations at your place of business. So you got to make sure that if you've changed companies, you roll that into the new 401k, or talk to your financial services provider about looking for maybe moving it into an individual IRA.
Yeah.
Make sure that you don't lose track of those 401ks. You've got a great story about that. We're not going to do that one today, though.
No.
But you want to look through your allocations and make sure that they're right for you at the right time, because as you approach retirement, maybe you don't want it to be in the ultra aggressive growth fund anymore. Maybe you just want just a normal style growth, and then maybe you want something that's more balanced. So look through your 401k allocations and make sure they match with your current life status.
Yeah, or have your, bring that information into a financial professional like yourself, have them look at it. I think that's really important. A lot of people, especially when they're younger and they first enroll in 401ks, that they think 401ks, well, even at any age, a lot of people think, I'm enrolled in 401k, set it and forget it. But you should review it once a year. I mean, at least during the open enrollment, or bring your paperwork in and help your financial advisor log in and look at where your funds are actually allocated. Send them the prospectus or the information you have. So
I reviewed a client's 401k holdings. She had well over $1 million in her 401k, but she was in stuff that was just dragging her 401k down.
Oof.
And so we reallocated, and then 5 years after that, we compared to what it would have been if she'd stayed where she was. Oh, it was so much better for her.
And that illustrates why you want to work with a financial professional. You just 401ks, they really aren't truly actively managed, and they might not be with a very good company, and they might not be properly set up for your personal situation.
Exactly. So, even if they're with a really good company, it may not, you're usually not getting advice on how to place the money with that good company.
No, there's so many different levels it's gone through. I mean,
yes.
You need to work with a financial professional who can, maybe say, hey, if we move this into an IRA or reallocate within your 401k, that's why you want to review that. So what's next?
So the next thing is something that's just more important for younger people, I guess. The younger people in your life is, if you have a child with special needs, you need to make sure that you have guardianships, trusts set up, and that your financial service professional and your attorney know about these and how things are going to go. Now, this is really important if you're widowed or divorced, because the state, you don't want the state stepping in when there's already something set up because of something that happened that was out of your control. Right. So, and you want to make sure that the child inheriting considerable assets is taken care of, right? And so you want a good set up that legal guardian so that they will take care of they're a reputable legal guardian. It's what they do professionally. It's not the uncle down the street, right? So this is where you want professional help with that.
Yeah.
There's oversight because they're licensed.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Well, and Chris, let's take a moment here to let our listeners know if they have any questions about anything we're talking about, or want to get a plan in place, or want to have you give them a second opinion on where they're at with their retirement funds, maybe their employer plan, 401k, 403b, TSP. How can our listeners out there get a hold of you?
So our listeners can reach us at 719-210-4242. Check our website out, nolanfinancialpartners.com. We can answer questions about retirement details, retirement goals, any other elements of your financial strategy. Give us a call at 719-210-4242. It's our goal to help you prepare for your retirement you work so hard for.
All right. Well, and you've been looking at details in retirement planning.
Yeah.
The devil is in the details. So what else do we need to tackle here, or should we know about?
So interest rates have been going up and down, fluctuating a lot. It's really
Yeah.
important that we're looking at where what our assets are doing for us. If they're sitting at a larger bank, they're probably getting a poor rate of return in a savings account. Maybe we want to move it to a money account that's making money market account, excuse me, that's making up around 4%. 3.5%, 4% are good rates right now. But 0.5% is not a good rate. So if you got $100,000 working at 0.5%, that's $500 a year. Where if it's 3.5, then that's $3,500 a year.
Yeah, it makes a big difference, doesn't it?
I don't know, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, compounding interest is a big one. You got to pay attention to the interest rates, and you can't be afraid about moving around to get a better rate. Some people, some people are locked into their banks because they've been there a long time, and my wife and I have been guilty of that because her mother worked at the bank. My wife worked at this bank. It's a small town bank. They're friends with the president. But you do need to shop around. And there are a lot of great banks and options. And so we have some money in a credit union. We really like that. Look around for the best rate. Sometimes credit unions have the best rates. So sometimes it's a large bank. Sometimes it's a small one. But you got to look around and shop banks once in a while.
Well, and you want to make sure that it aligns with your lifestyle. So we travel a lot. So we have one national bank and then one local bank.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, if you want free, if you want to avoid ATM fees, you got to look at that. I mean, some people, you got to look at how much you're paying. Some people will bend over backwards to make sure, hey, we travel a lot, we don't want to have to pay ATM fees. But if you do the math, how much is it costing you? So you need to figure that out. But I know a lot of people who travel a lot, they want a bank where they can find an ATM or a local branch of that bank easily.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes
well,
sense.
And then some of the smaller banks, whoever's servicing their cards, sometimes when you use them overseas, they're not, they're like, no, they just say no. So, where a big national bank is used to people traveling.
Yeah, exactly.
So the other thing I want to talk about was IRA distributions and inherited IRAs. So these can be a big part of your financial world, and they sometimes get overlooked. So you want to make sure you do your annual required IRA distribution, because there's still some pretty hefty tax penalties with that. The Secure Act 2.0 changed a bunch of stuff. We went over that in another episode. You can look that up. If you're changing custodians or financial service professionals, be sure to thoroughly document whether you're taking your required distribution for that year. So make sure that they know. I know if I take on a new client, I will ask, right?
Right.
So have you taken it? So let's make sure we do that right now, so we get that set up and get it done. But your new custodian is not going to know. So you make sure you tell them, and because you want to make sure So inherited IRAs, you have 10 years to distribute those. So there's some exception rules, but you want to make sure you get those distributed out in that 10-year time frame.
Yeah. IRAs are important.
Mom, that's for my Roth IRA.
Thought I'd throw that one in there. But, again, the importance, if you're going to do something with an IRA, do a Roth conversion, you got to work with a financial professional. I don't mean to hound that point, but you want to handle your IRA distributions in a way that follows the rules. You want to avoid penalties. Nobody wants to get hit with large tax penalties. That's for sure.
No, they don't. So they may not negatively impact you that much, but they're just nagging and they're irritating because they're easily preventable if you just take care of business, right? So take care of business, avoid doing those. Now, if you've retired with a health savings account, make sure that you've got those reimbursements and receipts so you can make sure that you're not being taxed for that money, right? Because if you file it with your CPA and it's okay, this came out of HSA, so it doesn't get charged money because it went toward medical. Make sure you're doing that. Consider setting up a spreadsheet and taking care of those things.
Yeah. I think that sounds good. Well, that's really important. And again, another detail that sometimes people miss. HSAs are so tax effective, and healthcare costs can be so expensive. Even with Medicare, there's a lot of costs.
Right.
And I think people would be surprised at what's eligible. It's like the commencement address. They told us always wear sunscreen, I think was the main message of my commencement address. Always wear sunscreen. And sunblock is eligible under HSA rules. So you can use HSA money to buy sunblock, believe it or not.
That's awesome. I never even thought about that.
What else you got for us?
So the last one is looking at buying a life insurance policy. It's really often neglected strategy for your financial world. So if there's people you love who may struggle with money after death, the life insurance policy may be a great tool to ease some of that burden. Maybe you just want a burial policy. Maybe you just want just that transition policy. Life insurance, if will pay out fairly quickly, and we'll get it to you. So we had a client, his wife died suddenly from phage, and so we set up the money, and the check came pretty quick, and so he was able to use that money to pay for his bills that came with all that, right? Because she was in the hospital, and then various bills that came from that. So having that is kind of important, to have something so that your spouse or partner or your heirs have that ready money. Life insurance policies are never going to go through probate because there's always a beneficiary, unless there's not a beneficiary. There's always going to be a beneficiary.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
You're with me. There's always going to be a beneficiary.
We've gone full circle back to beneficiaries. Well, it's important to be fully insured and not underinsured or overinsured. So that's again, work with a financial professional. I think that's a great note to end the show on. But first, before we go, the important part of today's show is, how can people set up that no charge, no obligation consultation with you and Tara?
So our listeners can give us a call at 719-210-4242. Visit us our website, nolanfinancialpartners.com. We can discuss how we can answer your questions about your retirement details, your retirement goals, or any other elements of your financial strategy. Remember, we're here to help you prepare for your retirement you work so hard for. Call us at 719-210-4242.
All right. Sounds great. That does it for today's episode of Nolan Financial Radio.
Join us again soon for another episode of Nolan Financial Radio. Take care, and we'll talk to you again.